I've now been riding the Van Rysel RCR Pro for the last 7 weeks, and it has been dreamy. This is a genuine AG2R World Tour team bike that they let me ride for a bit. As you'd expect, I've taken really good care of it and only ridden it on Hollywood tarmac. Now, for full transparency, as always, unlike our previous videos about Decathlon bikes, this video is sponsored by Decathlon, which means it might be a waste of time me telling you that this bike rides like a dream, it corners like it's on rails, it flies in a sprint, and I don't want to give it back. But of course it does all those things. It's a Tour de France bike. What we can do though is look at some facts and answer some of your questions that you sent in on our first look video a few weeks ago. Now, this is a high-end racing bike, which is pretty different from Decathlon's usual offerings. So everybody was quite interested to see what would happen to the price compared to what they usually sell, which is more entry-level stuff. The top-end SRAM Red model will retail for €8,500. This includes a power meter, deep carbon wheels, top-end finishing kit, and the highest grade carbon fiber version of the frame. The same level of carbon fiber as the one that I have. Similar specs are available from other major brands, but the prices don't come close. I've tried to choose bikes in this list with the closest spec possible. The Specialized Tarmac SL8 is £12,000. The Trek Madone SLR9 is £12,300. The Scottfoil RC Pro is £10,499. The Cannondale Super 6 Evo around £10,500. And the Canyon Air Road CFR is the closest at £8,999. For a top-end bike like this, at retail, this is the best price we've seen. The frame set alone will also be available for purchase. It's €2,500 for the highest grade of carbon fiber. Other notable price points are a SRAM rival version of the bike with carbon wheels, but the standard RCR level of carbon layup in the frame, that will be €4,200, and then another top-end carbon fiber RCR Pro with Ultegra Di2 and carbon wheels, €5,500. Sizing. Now, this got some people riled up in the comments of the first video that we posted. I have been riding an extra small and it has around a 53cm top tube. This is a long and low racing bike designed for athletes racing the Tour de France. So it's aggressive and fast and it will force you into an aerodynamic position. But even saying that, I feel as if the labeling of the sizes could be adjusted. I asked our favorite bike fitter, Bikefit James, what he had to say.
Very long and very low. It's a racing bike basically, isn't it?
If I was choosing the names of the sizes, I would shift them. So I would call an extra small a small and a small a medium. And I think it would be a bit more in line with what people are used to. Having said that, this is quite a common thing to experience across the whole bike industry of bikes being labeled not quite perfectly, in my opinion. Some brands have done away with the small, medium, large labels completely and just used a number, and perhaps this makes people look into the sizing a little bit more and is a good thing. Anyway, I'm 5'10" in the mornings, and I've been having a great time riding the extra small. I would still choose that if I were to buy this bike, and if you were going to be choosing, look at the top tube length before you make a decision. Have a look at what your current bike has and base it on that rather than the labeling of small, medium, large. We did question Decathlon about the sizing, and this is what they had to say.
Regarding the geometry, there are differences between all of our frames as it depends on the usage. Leisure, sportive, racer. To match the rider's needs and to help find the right position accordingly. So basically, this bike has been designed for professional bike racers, as we know, and the geometry that's being sold to consumers is professional bike race geometry, which is fine for some people. However, most people watching this are going to benefit more from an endurance geometried bike. So we asked them, have they got an endurance bike in the works? And they said, we already have this in the range. It's called EDR, which stands for endurance. But make no mistake, endurance and speed, this is their words. Make no mistake, endurance and speed are not mutually exclusive. That is the challenge that our design team took up when creating this line. EDR frames are the perfect answer for competitive riders looking for a bike that is as good in the mountains as it is on the bike path. The perfect combination of rigidity, low weight and comfort will allow you to leave your past records in the dust. That wording is a bit vomit-inducing. But, vomit aside, realistically, this is probably the bike that most people should be considering if they want a high-end Van Rysel bike. And I think even if I was looking for a high-end Van Rysel even bike, I would want an endurance geometry because I think it's just more appropriate in this day and age. I don't have the back and the hip flexibility like I used to have.
World Tour spec. This is my first time riding a legitimate World Tour bicycle. There are some things to note, and bear in mind we have no affiliation with the brands in the following section. This team bike was spec'd with a Physique Vento Argo saddle. The last time I rode a Physique saddle was 2008, and it's safe to say their product has improved significantly. This was one of those weird 3D printed looking saddles, and I was quite impressed. It's probably classed as a short nose saddle. It's got a decent pressure relief channel made of spongier 3D printed material in the middle, so it doesn't look like it's actually cut out that much, but the material compared to the sides is very, very soft. So it compresses nicely and doesn't give you much pressure at that location. If you sit wonky on a saddle, saddles like this can actually be a really good idea because not only is it giving you a bit of pressure relief, but it's still giving you some support. So if you're not hitting the pressure relief channel directly, it might work quite well for you. I did notice the wings of the saddle touched my legs a little bit as I was riding, which is all too common with these short nose saddles that are built quite wide for some reason. This meant I gravitated towards the nodes of the saddle a little bit, which wasn't ideal, but it worked for the few weeks that I was riding it. I would have preferred it to be a little bit narrower. It's a cool piece of design though, and it's made me want to try my favorite saddle shaped in its 3D printed version, which is the Celitalia Boost S3. Wheels and tyres. They are Continental GP5000s mounted to Hadron by Swisside wheels, the 50mm deep version. Coincidentally, these are made to work best with 25mm tyres, so they were nice and flush when they were mounted. Rejoice! These were hooked rims. Lots of people will be happy about that. It means the tyre is held on by a tiny little hook shape and you don't have to run fairly low pressures in the case of a hookless wheel, which lots of brands are exclusively making, like Envy and Zip. They're all hookless and limited to about 72.5 psi. Despite them being hooked, they still recommend a max pressure of 102 psi when you're running tubeless. A quick note on the stability of this bike. Bear in mind that there's 50mm deep wheels on it. It's very, very stable. It's been gusty here in the city for the last few days. Very windy, as in people have been avoiding going riding because it's so windy. It's been absolutely fine. Sometimes when you ride aero or aero optimized bikes, you notice that they catch the wind, particularly the very aggressive aero tubing. But here, it's a nice happy medium. Like I said in the first video, I've got no way of testing the aerodynamics of the frame unless someone wants to give us some time in a wind tunnel. But in terms of how it feels to ride, stable, happy days. The GP5000s were grippy, fast, supple feeling, and I didn't get a single puncher. The cockpit. This is custom made by Data for Van Rysel in collaboration with Onera, the aero experts that Decathlon have been working with. Now, I haven't got access to a wind tunnel, so I haven't been able to test anything, despite wanting to build one in the studio here. Jimmy said no. Despite them being allegedly fast, the handlebars are really comfortable. They're actually quite ergonomically shaped on the top. Sometimes these aero handlebars with a flat top on them can feel fairly horrible. And if you're spending 6-7 hours riding a bicycle, you want some comfort. Especially when you reside on the tops. They're nice and smooth and they feel nice on your hands. Frame information. The RCR frame only weight is 790 grams, about the same as a Tarmac SL7. The through axles they use have been halved in weight. So they've shaved off some grams of, I don't know what they've been halved from. I can only assume the previous Van Rysel bikes that they were making before they designed all of these ones. So they're now about 30 grams each. Seems pretty light. The seat post clamp has also been made very light. It is 23.2 grams apparently. They also do an even lighter version of the frame, which is raw carbon, so no paint, because paint weighs too much for weight weenies, apparently. Helmet and glasses. Along with the bike, they also lent us a pre-production version of the new Van Rysel helmet and glasses. The version I had here is a white FCR, just like the AG2R team. It's light, apparently quite aero. It has a clicky thing on the back to adjust the size, which is very easy to use, especially when you're riding with one hand. And it has a Fidlock magnetic strap. Best thing about it, it's £70. That is significantly less than most top-end road helmets on the market, so fair play Decathlon. Their matching glasses fit into the front vents really neat too, and these retail for about £50. They do a frameless version too, which are even lighter. We had lots of great questions from you, the audience, on the first look video, and while I was riding my bike in the sun, Jimmy had a call with the people that made this bike.
Decathlon, they're called.
So here's some answers for you, directly from the people who made the bike.
Well, the answers are coming from me. I didn't make the bike. So I guess I'm the middleman in this scenario.
What additional training are staff getting for such a high-end product?
So this one I can only comment from Decathlon UK's perspective, but I'm sure it's going to be the same across the across the board. In the UK, all of the bike people's staff are being trained by the product managers in London.
Are there going to be new bikes around the €1,000 mark?
So Decathlon reminded me that they have the RC 520 already. There's a new version of it coming out, which is slightly upgraded from the one that we tested early in the year. I think they've added a couple more 105 parts, and maybe the price is going up to £900. On the new bikes, we currently have the NCR carbon frame, which is Tiagra, which is about £1,600, and the aluminum version with Tiagra coming in September into the UK with a price of around £1,200. Next question, please, caller.
Can consumers buy the AG2R edition frame set?
Yes. So the bike will be available to bike, and it will be the identical spec to the team bike.
It will be available to bike.
I didn't say that.
You did.
I did not say that.
You did.
But that also makes sense. It's also fine to say it'll be available to bike, because it will be available to bike. You can bike it.
Will a person with a 300 watt FTP notice much difference between the regular and the pro model? I.e., what's the difference between the frame sets? Just weight and stiffness, question mark.
So if this is a question for me on the podcast, I would say there is no difference whatsoever. However, the official answer from Decathlon is the Pro layup is a bit lighter, 30 to 50 grams according to size, and stiffer. The aero properties will be the same between the RCR and the RCR Pro. Therefore, difference will be mainly on the bike responsiveness, attacks/sprint.
Will the bike be sold in Australia?
On the call, they said no as of now, but probably in 2025. So I actually found that they do have Decathlon stuff in Australia, which I wasn't aware of it. But I think it might operate under a different brand. Don't quote me on that. Ultimately, yes, but not for a while.
Will you be able to test ride them from Decathlon stores?
They informed me that currently they have a e-bike testing program, and they are hoping/looking to add more bikes to the range, i.e. bikes like this. Currently, no, but it's something they want to be doing in the future.
Is it a full aero bike or an all-around frame with aero features like the SL8?
In my words, it's going to be more like the SL8. So they have said it's an aero light bike. So that's a term I've not heard before. Have you heard that one before?
No,
aero light. So it's more of an all-rounder category, but very close to the best aero bikes on the market. ... Lighter!
I've ridden it. It's halfway between an aero and a light bike.
So aero light.
Exactly, aero light.
I've never heard that term before, but it does
Should be
make
used
sense.
more.
It does make sense.
Will it be available as frame only?
Yes. And I think that's probably quite surprising, because it's quite uncommon for a brand like Decathlon to sell frame set only bikes. But they've chosen to do it, yes. Frame, fork, stem, headset, seat post will be available from April 2024. The RCR Pro Carbon Raw, I don't exactly know what that means. I'm assuming it's just got a lacquer finish over the top of it, is expected to be €2,500. You are looking at a different bike brand as a frame set only, and it's showing us £2,900. You may or may not have ridden that bike, but I know the answer to that, which is may or may not be yes. How do you think it compares to that bike?
It's the same level of carbon fibre and around the same weight. €2,500 is what? £2,200?
Something like that.
That's £600 less to buy the Van Rysel compared to this.
I feel like that price is wrong. That doesn't seem
Okay, yeah, 3,000. Oh, you're right. The
So
RRP is 3,200. Okay, so the difference is even bigger. I was close, yeah.
It's actually £1,000 cheaper. Wow.
Even if this bike was average, which it's not, it would still be an incredibly well-priced bike. The fact that it rides the way it does at this price is ridiculous.
I feel like the only gripe that has come from this bike is we aren't massively happy with the way it's been sized, but I understand why it has been sized like that, because it is literally a pro bike. It is a bike that's been designed for a professional cycling team, and therefore it is long and fast and aggressive. I want us to get hold of the updated endurance bike.
Yeah.
Because that has the potential to be a top-end industry killer.
Stay tuned to see if we ever get hold of that bike by subscribing to this channel and for other videos like this.
Make sure you watch all of our videos, because we might put it anywhere. We won't even tell you we're doing it. We're just going to throw it in somewhere. So you need to watch everything.
There's a hair on the table.
I thought this is what we do now.
Okay. Bye.